So thank you for joining us for today's webinar, which is re-examining future work. It's part of our future work research series, and we'll reflect on how the COVID pandemic has impacted some of the key themes and findings from Jobs Queensland's 2019 report, Future Work, Future Jobs, Preparing Queensland for the Evolution of Work. And it will also provide overviews of follow-up research which was conducted following that first major piece of research, and these two are lifelong learning, the foundation of future work, and future work for small business, skills, capabilities and potential. Before I begin, I'll just quickly run through some housekeeping. Today's session is being recorded, and the session may be published on the Jobs Queensland website for viewing by other people at a later date. As you will see, you are on mute at the moment and your cameras are off. That will be for the duration of the presentation, but we will allow the unmuting of microphones at the end of the presentation. So if you do have any questions during the Q&A, you can do so. If you do have any questions or you want to, something comes to mind during the presentation, please use the chat function. And we will come back to those questions or comments or observations that you might make during the Q&A and see what discussion can come out of that. If you do have technical difficulties during the session, we find that leaving and re-entering usually resolves most issues. I'd like to hand over now to Jane Newton, the Acting Director, Research Policy and Projects in the Jobs Queensland Secretariat. Jane has been involved in the vocational training, education and training sector and industry skills development and research for over 20 years in a variety of roles. Prior to joining Jobs Queensland, Jane was the Research Manager at Manufacturing Skills Australia, which was the then National Industry Skills Council for Manufacturing. Jane has led a number of research pieces and projects with Jobs Queensland, including its Future Work series. So without further ado, I will hand over to Jane, who will take you through today's webinar. Thank you, Jane.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which we meet today and pay my respect to leaders, past, present and emerging. The presentation will be about 30 minutes, and as Sean said, there's going to be a Q&A session at the end, and please feel free to post questions in the chat as they occur to you throughout the presentation. When we look back over the past 2 years from when Future Work, Future Jobs was actually published, I guess we could say that we really didn't expect to be where we are today, and it's been a very tumultuous 2 years for most of us. However, the information that's in the Future Work, Future Jobs report still remains relevant, even in today's situation. So I'm going to take you through what we found in when we did the project, and also introduce you to the 2 new pieces that have been published subsequent to the original work that we did. First up, Jobs Queensland is a statutory entity. It was established in 2016 to provide independent advice to the Queensland Government on future skills needs, workforce planning and development, and apprenticeships and traineeships. We've done quite a bit of work since then, and most of it's on our website, so you can definitely jump on board and have a look at that. If you have a look at this slide here, I'd like you to think about when would this have been published? How relevant is it to today? It's really interesting because this quote here is probably about 80 years old, close to 90 years old. As you can see, it was published in 1937, so it is quite an old slide. But things really haven't changed in that everything is still changing and nothing is static. So when we started Future Work, Future Jobs, the project, it was at a time when there was a lot of media attention on robots and how robots were going to change work and our jobs wouldn't exist in 5 to 10 years time, and we'd all be on unemployment benefits or something like that. But the conversation over time has changed, and we've learnt that things are very different, that actually people are core to work and to the jobs of the future. And without people, there won't be any work, and there won't be any industry. And so, yes, robots or technology, perhaps more than anything else, will change how we do our work, but it won't fundamentally get rid of work. So in 2019, we talked about harnessing the opportunities that the new technologies and the changes that society is going through and will provide for us. Then 2020, COVID came, and it did change our lives, and it will continue to change our lives as we learn to live with COVID, the same as we learned to live with the flu and a few other illnesses. But we have an opportunity to rebuild and as part of the recovery, to build what we want. And maybe COVID was timely to remind us of what we want in our society. So we're now in 2021, coming to the end of it. There are still lots of questions around the recovery. It's and this is where what the work that we did prior to COVID can come in. So prior to COVID, the thing that we found was that there were 3 factors influencing the future of work. And we did a lot of research. We went out and talked to a lot of people around Queensland, got a lot of different views, and then we came down to these 3 things. So technology is definitely a big influence. It is definitely going to drive changes, and we can just look back over the past 20 years and think about how much technology has changed our lives in the last 20 years, or even just look at the impact that technology has had on our lives in the last 2 years as we've gone into lockdowns, and we've changed the way we shop, we've changed the way we do work, we've changed the way we travel. All these things have really, really impacted and changed it, and technology has sat behind a lot of those changes. The other thing that can really influence change in our lives is the demographics and social situations that we're in. Technology on its own is an innate object. It needs people to be able to do, to operate it, to turn it on, basically, so that it can do what it does. So demographics can influence that, how quickly people pick up technology, which technologies they pick up. All of these things are influenced by people. And also technology can be used for social good. It can be used to improve society, to improve our lives, to create greater equality across our society. And that can be driven by ourselves as individuals. We can decide what technologies we want to use and whether we want to use it for social good. And then the next influences or drivers are the legal systems or the institutions and the policies that we, at government level, but also in our own environments, in our own work and things like this, that we bring in. So policy is not just about government, but it's also about the policies that are in the workplace as well, and the policies that industries adopt and regions adopt for their own areas. So these 3 areas, we refer to them in Jobs Queensland as LIP, are great influences, but quite often they're actually playing catch up on what technology and society have decided. One of the big influences we found around, in the case of demographics, is the fact that we're actually all living longer. We're living much healthier. So we're living longer, we're healthier in our old age, we're more able in our old age as it's known, anybody over 60 is considered old. But we're also more productive in our old age. And yet, so we're ending up with multi-generational workplaces where you might have people ranging in age from 15 up to 70 and still working and contributing to society. And all these three factors, or these three drivers, impact everything. They impact our industries, they impact our regions, they impact our businesses, they impact us as individuals. So when we went out and talked to people, there were 5 key themes that emerged. The first one is that change is inevitable, but we don't have to be victims to change. We can manage it. We can create and use change to take advantage of opportunities, to create new opportunities, to have a future that we want. We also found that skills are absolutely crucial. Without the right skills, people get left behind in changes. So it's really important to ensure that people have access to the right skills, and having access to the right skills means that will drive our economic and social prosperity. Access to quality work is also essential. And quality work means different things to different people, depending on where they are in their lifespan. So quality work for a university student might be something that fits around their studies, enables them to live on a student loans allowance or whatever, and to be able to complete their studies successfully. It might also include access to work that aligns with what they're studying, and so that they can actually get the experience that they need. It's the same in vocational education and training. So people need access to work that meets their needs at that particular time in their life. And that may not necessarily be full-time work. It may be a variety of different types of work. It may be independent work, or as they call it, work in the gig economy, that allows them to work at different hours and doing the things that they really are passionate about. So that means that there's not one size fits all. And that is the same when we start talking about regions and industries. How we approach the future of work will change very much, depending on where you live, depending on which industry you work in. And therefore, we need to empower regions and industries to take leadership in making sure that they are able to take advantage of the opportunities. This will create a much stronger economy in Queensland. It will create much stronger regional economies, and it will build a better society. And key underpinning all this is lifelong learning, or having the mindset and the inclination to want to keep learning throughout our lifespan. And that's for every individual. It doesn't matter where you are in your work. You could be the CEO of a company, but you still need to have the skills to be able to learn and pick up new skills and pick up new learnings and things like this to drive your company forward. And you may be the cleaner in the company, but you still need to want to learn to be able to stay abreast with what's happening, even if you're passionate about cleaning and that is what you want to do. So these are really key things. So we came up with 18 recommendations. These recommendations were all accepted by government. And what's really key about these 18 recommendations is that no one agency on its own can do this. This has to be a collaborative effort. We have to all work together if we want the future work that we want and we need for the life that we want to live. And it's really important to think about this. So So we talk here about empowering employers to navigate change and take advantage of opportunities and individuals. So managing change starts with individuals and employers, and being able to see the opportunities, to seek out opportunities are all key ways of doing this. And the role of government and the role of industry bodies is to actually encourage and empower people and employers to be able to do that. And that means working together collaboratively to achieve goals. We need to drive job creation through forward-looking economic development. And then these strategies need to be underpinned by workforce planning and development, because economic development won't happen without the people to drive that development. And that means that we need the workforce that is required in the places where it's required, with the skills that it's required to drive and support the businesses that are going to drive our economic development. And this is where small business is key, because for all of our regions, small businesses make up the majority of businesses in those regions. We need to balance the opportunities that are going to be provided by the changing nature of work with protecting those that are most vulnerable. So there are sectors of our society that are at risk of being left behind as we change and as new industries emerge, as new jobs emerge, and we need new skills for the future. So we need to make sure that people have access to opportunities, access to education and training, and access to quality work that meets their needs as part of that. We need to support regions to strengthen their economies and to promote inclusive growth. And that means making sure that local leaders are empowered to lead in their regions, identifying who those local leaders are, supporting them to have the skills and the capabilities to lead, supporting the small businesses in those regions to grow if they want to, and to take on more staff and to develop new products and processes and drive the growth of the region. So we need to do all of that together, and underpinning it all will be lifelong learning, or will be having a desire to learn, a desire to develop new skills and to gain new capabilities. And that will be a really important thing. And it needs to happen with everybody. We all need to be part of that story. So COVID came along, 2020, who will forget it? And there are four things that Jobs Queensland has identified that will be key to our successful recovery. And that will be having the right skills for the right jobs at the right time. And I've already touched on this a little bit. So our economy has been significantly disrupted. It's been disrupted in a way that other major disruptions like the global financial crisis and the recessions that we had in the 1990s didn't. And it's going to, and it's had an effect that's very different to past disruptions, economic disruptions. It's actually accelerated the drivers of change. Many of the technologies that we've adopted and used during the pandemic have been around for quite a while. People just weren't using them and weren't wanting to use them. And yet the pandemic has made us realise just how crucial they are to work. And as we move forward, and I know that one of the big key things that we've been hearing a lot about is that we have a constrained labour force at the moment. Finding workers is extremely difficult for many businesses and across many industries. And so technology is going to still play a large part in where we happen. But our society is also changed, and there's a lot of changes happening that it might not necessarily be the things that we want. So how do we manage that? And it does, what has happened is the pandemic provides us with a chance or an opportunity to rebuild back better, to rebuild our economy that is more diverse, more clever, more innovative, more creative, and also a society that is more caring and more collaborative and supportive. But we'd also know already that the recovery will be uneven. It will not be the same for everybody, and we need to consider that as we move forward. How do we support all those people or all those industries, all those regions that are not recovering as fast as other industries, regions, or other areas of society? So let's talk a little bit about lifelong learning. Lifelong learning isn't a new concept. It's been around for a while. But what is happening is that we need to think about learning over the lifespan. As we move from school to post-school to work to right through to retirement, we're going to need, our skills and capability needs are going to change. Our knowledge is going to need to be updated. We're going to need to participate and learn things continuously to keep up with the changes that are happening. So we can talk about formal and informal training. So formal training is things like school, vocational education and training, higher education, short courses, micro-credentials. There's a whole range of different things. Informal training is a whole range of other things. It's the things that we learn on the job. It's the things that we learn from reading and watching television or doing Google searches or picking up a new piece of equipment and things like this. Watching other people, we can learn as well. And and we move between these different types of learning all the time, every single day of our lives, but we just don't recognise it. And they all lead us to different places. I think for many of us, if we reflect upon our careers, our work lives, when we think back to where we were when we left school and what we thought we would be doing and where we are now, and the things that we've learned along the way, a lot of things that we've learnt that we thought we may never use are probably being picked up and learnt in the current jobs that we're doing. So we never lose what we learn, we just apply it in different situations. So the concept of learning is, there's a lot of players involved in learning. And this diagram here shows you some of them. So, but at the centre of lifelong learning is the individual. I'm just trying to think how important lifelong learning is to, or the concept of learning throughout our lifespan is to the success of our economy and the success of our society. And I think it's really, really important to acknowledge that without having a willingness to learn throughout our lifetime, we will miss out on opportunities. And I think that's a key finding. So a little bit around statistics, a little bit of statistics just to show you why learning throughout the lifespan will be important. Jobs Queensland's flagship project, the Anticipating Future Skills project, has, and this is a slide from some of that work, has shown that over time, over the next, well, to 2024, and this is a pre-COVID one, has shown that we are going to need a much more educated workforce. People are going to need to upskill. We're going to need more people with higher degrees, higher vet qualifications. And those people that don't have the opportunity to participate in learning outside of school or outside of the formal system or even inside the formal system will actually get left behind. And this is really important. And this is the reason why we need to encourage and empower people to develop the skills to participate in learning throughout their lifetime. So this is a model of lifelong learning, and it shows that it's a shared responsibility. We all have a role to play. So while the individual is at the centre of this model, and each person, we can't force people to learn, they have to want to learn. But we can provide them with a growth mindset. We can encourage them to develop a mindset that is interested and curious and wants to know more. We need to develop a culture within the workplace and within industries and within our society itself that supports and celebrates learning and encourages people to get out there and learn new things. We need proactive policies and practices within workplaces, within industries, within communities, within government that encourages and enables people to participate in learning. And we need access to opportunities. We need to provide access and to opportunities. So if you live in a remote area and you haven't got the opportunity to access learning opportunities or the access to learning opportunities, then it's going to be very difficult for you. So we need to ensure that people have equity of access to learning opportunities as part of sharing the responsibility. So there are 5 ways that we can enable and encourage learning. And these 5 key findings are that, first off, people need to have the language, literacy, numeracy, and digital skills to participate in learning. If we don't have that, then they can't participate in learning. They also won't be able to participate in work. They need access to information and advice that can inform their career pathways and encourage and inform their decisions. We need to provide policy settings that promote and support access to learning throughout the lifespan. And we need to value and recognise not just school learning and higher education, but also vocational learning. So learning that is done on the job, learning that is done through the VET system, learning that is done through work. These are the things that we don't value. We don't see it as being worthwhile, and we need to encourage that. There also needs to be partnerships between government, industry, unions, employers, and individuals around encouraging and enabling the individual. So these are really key enablers and encouragers that we need to have in place. So where does small business play a role in this? Well, small business is the cornerstone of the Queensland economy, and small businesses are made up of individuals. One of the things that we found in the work that we did with Future Work, Future Jobs, and we heard it everywhere we went, is that small businesses need to be encouraged to develop the skills and capabilities that they need to be successful. Many small businesses are very focused on their business, on working in their business, not working on their business. So they are very good at what they do as far as the core of their business, whether it's providing great meals, or whether it's providing electrical services, or fixing doing your plumbing, or whatever it might be. They're very good at that because that's their core business. That's what it is. But they're not so good at managing their business. They're not so good at seeing new opportunities. They're not so good at business planning. they may not have the digital skills that they need to take themselves into the 21st century and to build their business. So we know that their skills and capability needs are diverse. So one size won't fit all. It doesn't matter. We can't just go, okay, let's provide this particular program, because it may not suit all businesses. We also found out that being digitally savvy, and that's a bit different to digitally skills, but being digitally savvy is essential for small business. So being able to understand the digital world and being able to look at digital technology and work out what they need for their business is key. Not only, and also being able to know what digital skills they need in their business. Doesn't mean that they need to have them, but what are the skills that they need in their business to be able to operate in a digital world. Skills and capability development needs to be timely, affordable and fit for purpose. That is, small business need access to skills, train and capability development opportunities at a time when they need it. It has to be affordable. It has to be at a price that they can afford, and it needs to fit the purpose of their business, whatever their business may be. There are 6 skills and capability development areas that have been identified. One of the things that really is key for the other 5 is that these digital skills, the other 5 areas need to be enterprise specific. So yes, they need financial management, financial literacy skills. They need human resource skills to manage their teams and things. They need marketing skills. They need to have business acumen, leadership and management capabilities to grow and make their businesses sustainable for the long term. And yes, they need digital and data skills, but these need to be contextualised to their specific enterprise. And this is really key for successful uptake of skills and capability development programs. So this just talks a little bit more about it. Time, price and purpose are key considerations. Small business prefer just-in-time skill development. So it needs to be when they need it, where they need it, for the people that they need to have it. They value information and vocational education from trusted sources. So they value it from people that have the skills and knowledge and understand their businesses. That may be industry, bodies, it may be unions, it may be fellow businesses that have been through similar things. But also they need to have a culture of lifelong learning within their business to want to develop these skills and learn these new capabilities. And that is something that needs to be encouraged by industry, by unions, by government, by local chambers, across anybody that integrates with them or interacts with small business. So these are some of the things that we've learned about, what being digitally savvy can do. It can actually give businesses or business operators an extra 10 hours a week to target in their business specific things. So it means that they've got more time to do what they need to do, the core of their business, and they're not actually losing time by doing non-productive work. It can improve their returns to their business by around 27% per annum. So that is really an important thing to think about for small businesses. Well, what are their challenges? Well, the top 3 challenges of these 3, the cost of the technology. If the technology is really expensive, if they have to actually, what is the benefit of it? Will they get enough back from it to make worthwhile investing in it? What's the cost of staff training? So you will all know that, a lot of technology suppliers will now provide training for the staff free of charge or as part of their service agreement. And that is key for actually getting small businesses to engage in buying the technology. But one of the big hurdles is actually knowing which technology is the right technology. Small businesses don't want to invest in technology that's going to be outdated in a year or 2 years or 3 years' time, especially if it's a big investment. But they also want to make sure that it's right. It's the stuff that it's providing what they need for their business. And in this case, they need trusted advisors, people that are not there just to sell them the technology, people that are going to go, yeah, this is the sort of, look, there's this technology and this technology and this technology, but this is the one I think that'll work best for your business. And therefore they get the right advice to support their big acquisition. And so that will, all those three things together will encourage small business to invest in technology and to become digitally savvy. So how do we move forward? Where are we going next? Well, there are 6 key things that need to be in place to support the way forward and to give us the future that we want. We need a strong evidence base. So we need to have the data and the knowledge to support decisions. We need to be able to respond to a diversity of needs. So this is where place-based responses are key. Empowering local regions to be able to make their own decisions, providing access to training and skills in those skills development in those regions where they're needed is actually key to being able to build our economy. We need to create businesses that are sustainable for the long term. We don't want new businesses starting up and not being there in 5 years' time. We need them to be able to start up and stay and continue to develop and grow. We need to support growth. We need to make sure that the businesses have access to the skills that they need, that they are able to develop more jobs, to actually provide more employment opportunities and to take advantage of economic opportunities that appear in their area. We need program integration. So we need to be able to integrate a large amount of information and data and a whole range of different programs in a way that people can easily see and find what they need to be able to do that. And we need to develop digitally savvy businesses as we move forward. And we've talked about a little bit around what's needed to develop digitally savvy businesses, but we also need digitally savvy individuals, and that's where lifelong learning will be key. Okay, thank you everybody. So that finishes my speaking. I'd really like to hear from anybody. Please, raise your hand if you've got a question or would like to provide some feedback. Any questions?
Hi, Ruth. Your mic's been enabled, so if you can speak away, unmute yourself and away you go.
Okay. Just wondering about the recommendations and how will they be implemented?
Sorry?
How will the recommendations be implemented, given you said it's going to be a collaborative effort across many agencies?
Okay, so there is as I said, government has accepted them. So there's already some take up of our recommendations. So one of the things that have come out of the Future Work, Future Jobs report is the updated skills strategy that DESMIT has developed. So that was directly from, a lot of that was influenced by the Future Work, Future Jobs report. There's also some of the work around, sort of program integration was actually seen during the pandemic when the small business portal was set up and a lot of programs came together on that portal. So there are some practical solutions or practical actions that have already been taken by government. Unfortunately for us, once we hand over our report, we don't have a lot of influence in how it is interpreted, and we have to sort of sit back and wait and see what comes out of it. So, that's where it's been so far.
Jane, we have a question in the chat from Karina, and the question is, has forecast data included COVID-19 impacts? If yes, how can it be shared? I think that might be referring to some of that statistical data around AFS that you provided earlier.
Yep. Karina, no, the data that was in the slide actually predates COVID. We are working at the moment to update all of that material, and it will include the COVID impacts in the new data, which we're hoping will be available early 2022.
Thanks, Jane. We also have another question from Helen. Will the Queensland Government support high-level apprenticeships qualifications like overseas governments are doing?
The Queensland Government currently is supporting higher level apprenticeships. There's actually 2 pilots in progress at the moment, one up in Townsville and one here in Brisbane through Skills Tech. So they will be, depending on how successful those pilots are, and given that they're in manufacturing and they've been oversubscribed, I would think that it's highly likely that there will be more coming forward. Also, Queensland Government's also been supporting micro-credentials as well, and there's been a big take-up of micro-credentials during the pandemic, and that looks like it's going to continue. So the trial around micro-credentials, which was through TAFE Queensland, has been really successful so far.
Thanks, Jane. Do we have any more questions? If you do, quickly raise your hand. Yep, we've got one here from Carl.
Yeah, Carl, some of them are, some of them aren't. So very quickly, I think that if you go onto the DESMIT website or maybe TAFE's website, I'm not really sure which one it's located on, you should find some information there around the micro-credentials and which ones were offered. Some of them were COVID specific, but a lot of them are in areas like cybersecurity and digital skills, as well as work health and safety and a few other areas like that.
Thanks, Jane. All right, well, I think that at this point, unless there's any further questions that are going to quickly come through, we might call a close to this particular session. Thank you for joining us today for this particular webinar. If you'd like to stay up to date with Jobs Queensland's work, you can always join us on our socials. We have a LinkedIn and we have a Twitter account, or alternatively, you can go onto our website and subscribe to our e-newsletter, which will provide you with the latest about our research when it's published. So thank you very much again for joining us, and we'll call a close to this particular webinar. Thanks very much, everyone.